Welcome back. Jason, we're still talking about Southeast Asia. 260 million internet users. By 2025, you expect 480 million internet users. That's 3.8 million people jumping or having access to internet. It's a size of what Tony yesterday mentioned, the size of New Zealand.
Yeah, basically, right. Yeah.
Every month.
Every month, yeah. So that's Southeast Asia, right? The 260 to 480 million, right? Indonesia, we're seeing about 92 million last year. We crossed the 100 million mark in May of this year, and then we're heading towards 215 million by 2025. Yeah. No, sorry, 2020.
Yeah.
Actually, 2020. So in the next 5 years, right? So that's very significant for what the impact is going to have on not just on e-commerce, right, but on the way people socialize, the way they learn. You know, all these things are going to be impacted by the internet, right? And as smartphone prices come down, right, more people will be. I mean, right now, so smartphone penetration is also at 43%, if not higher. That was a figure from last year. We haven't released our 2016 numbers yet. I imagine they will be higher. I don't know by how much, but you know, so when you have half of the country using smartphones, right, and that is their primary entry to the internet, right? They're not. Most Indonesians don't have a computer. About, according to our numbers, about 15% that have a desktop or a laptop, right? So that's. So you think about it, like if you're sitting there with your smartphone, this is basically your tool to the world, and this is your tool to learning. Whether you want to be learning, you know,
no longer just a window to the world, but that's where you transactions happen, communications, everything. Your life goes in there. 43% of device usage is actually from mobile phone, from smartphones.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, in Indonesia, and only 15%. On computers. So Indonesia, Tony yesterday mentioned that Indonesia will be, in the next 5 years, will be a mobile first nation before, and mobile first nation, and then computer. So yeah, 3.8 million. So people should be looking into this. Indonesia is a great opportunity. When we zoom in into Indonesia, the more than half of its population, like you said, is connected to the internet, or at least have mobile phones. So people should start eyeing in Indonesia, and that's where to invest in the next 5 years.
I think there's that, and there's also what Indonesian businesses, educators, students, you know, what they should be thinking as well. So if you're a small business, you need to be thinking about how you're going to reach your customers or find new customers on a smartphone, right? And so obviously Google has a lot of ways of doing that, right? And all of these things are optimized for mobile, right? So if you're a business, you know, you need to be making mobile websites, not the old, you know, desktop website where, like, so you're pinching and zooming on a small screen, right?
It has to be mobile phone friendly.
Yeah, completely, right? So I think that's sort of like taking hold. Now people realize, okay, this thing has to, like, because when you're walking around with a smartphone, you basically have 3 seconds before someone leaves your site. If they can't open it, or if it's hanging, or if it's hard to find information, they're gone. Whereas if you're sitting there with the desktop, maybe you're doing something else, and you can, like, you know, wait for it to load, right? And with mobile, it's different. You're walking around, you're running around, you're getting out of a car, right? So you don't have time to wait. So, so businesses. So one of our missions is also to get businesses to realize that this is the future, and you need to be ready for it, even if you're not like an online business per se, right? If you're a small business and you want people to find your warung or your toko or something like that, right? You still need to have some kind of presence so they can find you.
Right.
But you know, less than 2% of Indonesian businesses, out of like the 55 million small businesses in Indonesia, have some type of online presence.
Right.
So it's tiny, right? So there's a long way to go, and I think there's people don't necessarily, well, I'm selling, you know, kue cubit, you know, why do I need to be online, right? Well, it turns out kue cubit was like the most searched term in Indonesia last year, right? So if you're selling kue cubit, like, makes sense to like have people like find your kue, right?
Yeah, correct. Now, who are the primary subject? I understand three main sectors: the e-commerce. These are the direct players or industry players. You have travel, online travel, and online rides. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about this.
Right. So there's a number of areas that we could have looked at. We excluded secondhand goods and goods that are like being sold on social media, things like that, right? So, or entertainment, we didn't include that stuff in the report.
Health, education, that's out of
right. So that, if you think about it, these numbers are actually conservative, because fintech's also not included, right? Because the data.
Is that designed?
I think it's just because of the amount of data that's available.
Right.
Right, because a lot of the e-commerce piece you can take as a percentage of the total retail market. So there's a lot of numbers around retail size, like how it's growing, right? So e-commerce is basically out of this. So Indonesia represents about an $81 billion opportunity by 2025, right? So growing more than 6.5 times to $81 billion. Of that $81 billion of the online market, about 57% is e-commerce, right? So more than half, right? So the e-commerce sector is predicted to reach about 46 billion by 2025.
2025.
Yeah, and then you've got online travel, which is predicted to grow to about 24.5 billion, and then online rides, if I'm not mistaken, that's growing to. You have the number there?
32% Indonesia.
No, that's online rides. So
24.5 billion.
no, that's travel.
Yeah.
And then rides.
Rides. Yes.
5.6 billion. Yeah.
5.6
yeah,
billion.
right. So 5.6 from a low base of what 800 million, right? So that's 9 times. Oh wait, yeah, 7 times. It's huge. Like it's like 700% increase.
Yeah.
So all of these things are showing 4x, 5x, 6x, 10x growth in the next 10 years, right? So, it's actually an eye opener, right? Because we think like, wow. What does that hold for the future of this country, right? Like if you're an ojek driver or you're a small merchant selling online, or if you're traveling overseas, like all of these businesses have huge potential.
And we'll talk about online rides, which is uniquely only to Indonesia. Because it's only available in Indonesia at the moment. No other countries in Southeast Asia. Because I know this year we only calculate the number for Indonesia, but we'll come back. We'll talk about that after the short break.